Nothing fascinates me a lot like studying African leaders and global leaders at large, trying to get their lessons or lessons from them on how they handle finances. And today we are going to study one of the most controversial leaders in Africa, that is Muammar Gaddafi. So Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya for over 40 years. To some he was a dictator, but to others he was a visionary who turned Libya from being the poorest country in the continent to one of the richest countries in Africa. So today I'm not going to focus on Muammar Gaddafi's politics because, as I said, he's one of the most controversial leaders in Africa to even study about. But today I want to tell you a story of how he used his financial principles to transform one of the most poorest countries in Africa to being the rich. Today we are going to focus much more on the money lessons from his leadership and how we can use these money lessons from Muammar Gaddafi to transform our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let's get right into the video.
Talks with Muammar podcast, where we get real with finances and tap inside the economics of power.
So, when trying to get to understand what most of these African leaders have been up to, because leaders are these people who manage huge sums of money at once, and these sums of money are meant for the citizens. Today I landed in, I came across one of the most leaders. I personally admired his principles of leadership, but also I've been trying to understand what are some of the principles of money that Muammar Gaddafi possessed during his days as a leader in Libya. So the first lesson that Muammar Gaddafi had was own, don't rent. Like, you need to have control of resources. So if I'm to take you back to Libya, when Gaddafi was in power, foreign oil companies had control over Libya's wealth. Now, what did Muammar Gaddafi do? He nationalized the oil industry, redirected profits to the Libyan people, and this was a move that enabled the people of Libya to consolidate wealth during the tenure of Muammar Gaddafi. If you are to remember, once Muammar Gaddafi was in power, people from Libya were being paid even if you're not working. Like, he had grown that economy. So what lesson do you pick from this idea of Muammar Gaddafi of own, don't rent? You see, you don't need just to work for money as a person. You need to own asset. You need to start a side hustle. You need to buy a land. You need to invest in skills that pay for a long term. Because at the end of it all, you need to be in ownership of something for you to transform your life. So the first money principle that I picked from Muammar Gaddafi was own, don't rent. Number 2 is live below your means. Now, this is something that if someone tells me to live below my means, to some is usually like an insult to them, because people tend to believe, okay, I had this ideology in my head at once that if I want to work hard, I should live somewhere that will give me pressure to do more. But studying Muammar Gaddafi, he had this principle of living below his means. You see, despite Libya being a leading nation in oil production, Gaddafi often lived in tents. I've been asking myself, he wore simple clothes and he even rejected unnecessary luxury, and been trying to wonder, why did this man do all this despite him being a dictator and being in a position that he could amass wealth at any time that he needed. But imagine this, that lifestyle inflation can kill your financial growth, and that is really true. We usually try to live beyond our means. You are earning a salary of 50,000, but you want to live like someone who is earning a salary of 100,000. So this inflation usually kills your financial growth, because a lot of the money that you're doing, you'll be living paycheck to paycheck, and at the end of it all, you'll have nothing to show about. So you have to save, invest, and grow before you start spending big. That is why we could see Muammar Gaddafi, despite him being a dictator, despite him having that capability to live that luxury life, maybe have a mansion somewhere, have 16 Rolls Royce in his car park, have huge sums of money in a bank account somewhere, Muammar Gaddafi lived in tents, and he even thought of Africa having a union bank. The third lesson about money that I picked from Muammar Gaddafi is invest in people and infrastructure. You see, Gaddafi used the oil money to give Libyans free health care, free education, and he even built the great man-made river project. He built the largest irrigation system in the world. And during this time we could ask ourselves, or people could ask themselves, why is it that despite this man doing all this, people used to fight him? But you see, people from Libya believe that he was the man who changed that country, because I'm telling you, I read somewhere, it's in the articles, that during the reign of Muammar Gaddafi, people in Libya lived a comfortable life despite him being a dictator. So I'll not dive deep into the politics of him being a dictator, but I'll stick to the money lesson of investing in people and in infrastructure. So people are usually a currency that you cannot do without. Okay, people are a resource, or resources that can go beyond what money can give you. And sometimes for you to grow, you need to invest in people. You need to set the foundations of your wealth around people who have influence, around people who have stature, and people who have a class in the society. So investing in people is not about you giving them money. Investing in people is about you building those strategic relationships, is in you making that person feel appreciated at all times. It's you making this person have a reason to always hang around you. You're having this person gain value from you. So for you to grow financially, because they usually say you are a sum of the total 5 people that you spend a lot of your time with, take a lot of time to invest in people, and also take a lot of time to invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure is what can generate income for you later. Which brings me to lesson number 4, strive for financial independence. You see, Gaddafi resisted foreign loans and pushed for African gold-backed currency. And we can all agree that these foreign loans have been a very, very painful thorn to the African people. So for Gaddafi, he really resisted these things. He wanted Africa to stand on its own. I've told you before that he wanted Africa to have its own currency and have one bank. And you see, whether or not we people agree with Gaddafi's idea, his principle was very, very simple. Never depend too much on others. The moment you start depending too much on others, you become a liability to them, and that is where you'll see that IMF comes in and starts harassing you. So you should use the theory and the idea of IMF and how it handles African nations or third world countries when you're trying to build your financial life. You should strive to just have financial independence for your own. So you should start building an emergency fund. You should avoid toxic debt, and you should aim for independence before luxury. Independence before luxury means you wearing the most affordable clothes. Have you ever wondered how much it costs for someone like Mark Zuckerberg to dress himself? He just does a simple t-shirt, a simple jeans outfit, and a simple sneakers. And we tend to believe that most rich people should be in 6-piece suits. So sometimes just strive for financial independence, because you won't live that life of relying on people to give you money for you to change your life. You may be in need of something, you go take a debt from someone, and how this person treats you with this debt, it will be really pathetic for you to even be around that person. So always strive for financial independence over trying to live luxury life to please people. The 5th lesson we pick from Muammar Gaddafi is think generational wealth. You see, Gaddafi's policies were designed to make Libya rich beyond its lifetime. It was not all about that time. It was something that it's going to be a lifetime thing for Libya, like not just during his reign. For you today, you should not just think about survival. You should not just think about today. You should think about your children. You should think about your grandchildren. So it's time for you to start building assets that will last. Maybe real estate, set a business that can transform lives tremendously, and even have investments that will run a very, very long time. So the thing is this: the moment you stop thinking about you and start thinking about those who are coming before you and those who are with you at that time, you'll start thinking of ways to generate something called generational wealth. In this generation, we see people are living in luxury that their grandparents built, and we ask ourselves, where were our grandparents? But I think these are principles that even some of our grandparents picked from Muammar Gaddafi, that let's think this thing through generational wealth and not through personal wealth. The 8th lesson we pick, not the 8th, but the 6th lesson we pick from Muammar Gaddafi is use of collective power. Gaddafi believed in Pan-African unity and pooling of resources. When we say pooling of resources, it's Africa taking its resources and putting it together for it to help the continent grow. But you see, the thing is this: the lesson that we pick from the idea of Gaddafi, from saying Africa should have one president, Africa should have one currency of coin, Africa should have one bank, is that you can never build wealth alone. One day I was listening to Tanzanian musician Diamond Platnumz, and he was saying that there is no person in this world who has built a company on his own. Like, there is no day you'll see a multi-million company being run by one individual. So what does this tell you? You can never build wealth alone. You need to join into groups with people. Even these great circles that own matatus and vehicles, they are owned by a group of people, like people with the same mindset. They come together, generate a business. So if you want to build that generational wealth, for instance, you need to start thinking in pooling resources and thinking of collective power, because with the people you are strong, alone you are weak. So let's start thinking of pooling resources together and investing in something called collective power. Wealth grows faster when it's in collaboration rather than when it's in isolation. The seventh and last lesson that we pick from Muammar Gaddafi is be resilient against external power. Now, Gaddafi's downfall was linked to global powers, but for decades he had resisted external economic control. This comes with the US trying to control the economy of Kenya or even the economy of a country. This comes with IMF trying to control the economy of a person. So Gaddafi was against these things. And the thing that I'm picking from Gaddafi for doing this is that you should not rely on one source of income. You as a person, you should diversify. I read in the book The Psychology of Money that an average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So ask yourself, how many streams of income do you have? So if an average millionaire has 7 streams of income, it means that this millionaire does not only rely on that one source of income. If one source of income is not bringing income this month, there are 6 other sources of income that are making him income that day. That's why you'll see the person who is owning Amazon, he has Amazon producing movies, he has Amazon for shopping, he has Amazon for books and all that. So you need to diversify your sources of income. Protect yourself from external shocks, because external shocks are talking things like losing a job, inflation, or failed businesses. So if you are employed today, you are earning a salary of 300,000. Think of a way of setting up a business somewhere, so that even if the business is not making money, you have your salary coming in. So the day you are being fired from work, are you going to start from zero? No, you'll already have a business that is set up, that is making you money. So from there, what will you be thinking of? By the time you're getting another employment, you'll have diversified to get another employment opportunity. So those are the 7 money lessons I picked from the most controversial leaders in Africa, that is Muammar Gaddafi. I don't know which of the lessons you feel like it was right on point for him to do that. And whether we love him or we hate Muammar Gaddafi, he has left behind a powerful financial lesson that people of Libya continue to use till today. And also, you as a person, you can take time to study the financial lessons from the things that Muammar Gaddafi did for you to use to change your life. Because you cannot only live your life, you need to live simply, and you need to invest in yourself. You need to avoid dependency on people. You need to start building generational wealth, and you should always remember one thing, that true wealth is real freedom. I also did another video on the money lessons that you can pick from the late Mwai Kibaki, Kenya's 3rd president, on his vision 2030 for Kenya. I'll attach the link to that video. You can also check some of the principles that Mwai Kibaki used to transform Kenya's economy from a staggering 0.67 GDP growth rate to a maximum of 7% GDP growth rate within 5 years. Up to that point, my name is Movali Derek, and I'll see you on the next video.